Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Whatever time it is when you hear this message, I pray that you're poised to receive, to accept, and to respond to words of wisdom. Ashe. So just a few minutes ago, we had a blackout. And it reminded me of an event within the School of Orisha Studies about a year ago where we had a blackout. But the blackout wasn't a power outage. It was more of a movement. And it was a movement that activated the school's mission that is aligned with, historically Black colleges and universities, or that's aligned with independent Black institutions that are for us and by us. And sometimes, our own people are not quite aware of the reason why we need to have all Black institutions. And interestingly enough, when I thought about it just now, I was reminded of the movie Gandhi. And in the movie Gandhi, if you've seen it, you'll remember this, that Gandhi had been leading this decolonization movement in India. And he had been running with a cast of characters, an international cast of characters, people from Europe and from people from across India. They had teamed up with him to decolonize, right, the country. And so they got to the point where Gandhi was leading his people towards building an ashram. And so an ashram is basically a cornerstone of Hindu culture. It's an institution that kind of encapsulates it's like the seed of their social organization. In the Yoruba world, we would have the Agbole. The Agbole is the seed, right? Based on the Agbole, you can extrapolate out and you have the whole kingdom, right? The same logic, the organizational structure expands out like a fractal. Anyway, Gandhi had gotten to this point in the process and the excitement was reaching a really high level. Everybody could see that this was going to be a pivotal turning point in their development in the movement. And it was then that Gandhi turns to this English pastor who had been very close to Gandhi throughout the movement. And Gandhi says, this is the end of the road for you. You can't be a part of the building of the ashram. It's time for you to, go back to England. And the Englishman was like genuinely affected. At least that's how they played it in the movie. He was hurt basically because he says, I'm very sincere. I'm about it. I really want to see you lead the people to freedom. Why would you exclude me now? And he says, it's not about you. It's not about you. It's about my people. My people, in order for us to be genuinely successful in what we're aspiring to, have to know that they can do this by themselves, on their own terms. It can't be a question of, well, we succeeded because of the influence of this white man, or we failed because of the influence of this white man. We've got to sink or sail based upon our own efforts, our own genius, right? And so that is how it is with us. That is how it is within you as an individual. You have to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that you can reconstruct your identity and grow and flourish and thrive on your own terms. That you don't have to be seeking white validation. You don't have to have white approval. What you do doesn't have to agree with white philosophy or science. That's not a requisite for you to be legit, right? Oftentimes you'll see within our tradition, people are only satisfied with our tradition if they can hitch it to Christianity, or if they can hitch it to Islam, or if they can hitch it to physics, or if they can hitch it to chemistry. They can hitch it to Egypt. If you can't hitch it to something else, then it can't be right. And so I myself have always rejected that, largely because way back in the beginning of my studies, I started to tease out the white sources. It's not that I didn't read them or I'm not familiar with them, right? But if you see my works and you listen to me speak, very rarely, if almost never, you're going to hear me reference Bascom. Now, I've read Bascom. I read a lot of Bascom. He's got a lot of great stuff. Very rarely, you're not going to hear me reference Verger or Forbenu or Uli Bayer or Susan Wenger or Andrew Apter or Henry Druel, Margaret Druel, on and on and on. I've read all their stuff. I'm familiar with it, and it's quality work. But I don't depend upon their work and their interpretation of the work to legitimize my conclusions about the value of Yoruba history, culture, and tradition. I'm going to reference Fadikwe. I'm going to reference Fagunwa. I'm going to reference Elebuiban. I'm going to reference Abimbola, and so on and so forth. I'm going to go straight to the source. That was true when I was a graduate student. I studied and researched the psychological clinics in Yoruba land. I studied the early Yoruba psychologists and sociologists and historians, and I reference them. And anything that I can't find in Yoruba land, I'm going to Frantz Fanon. I'm going to Amy Césaire. I'm going to Marcus Garvey, right? I'm going to Booker T. Washington. I'm going to the African sources to definitely affirm beyond the shadow of a doubt that everything that I want to know and say about the excellence of our culture and our tradition and our identity can be all black. I don't have to depend upon white sources to legitimize my thoughts and conclusions about the excellence of the tradition. Okay? And so it must be with all of us. We need to be able to say and know beyond the shadow of a doubt that what we know and who we are is enough to take us where we want to go. Right? There's no value in refuting, right, the legitimacy of this one's claims, or correcting what that one said, or dismissing what that's not necessary. That's a losing battle. That's just as foolish as hitching everything to the Bible, because you're constantly referencing this outside source. No, just affirm where you come from. Affirm what your father told you. Affirm what your father's father told you and showed you. Analyze it, criticize it, improve upon it based upon your own line of thinking. Okay? So this is why we have all black everything in the School of Orisha Studies. It's about us. And it's about proving to ourselves that we have what it takes to capture, reclaim, refine, and restore the original African mind and participate fully in every dimension of modern society. I can be African and be a world-class banker. I can be an Orisha devotee and be a world-class professor. I can be an Orisha devotee and establish a world-class institution. Those two things can coincide absolutely perfectly. And I then have the freedom to choose how much of Western philosophy, thought, science that I want to incorporate into enhancing what I already have, what I already know, who I already am. It's an entirely different perspective, but it's necessary. If that isn't the goal of what we're doing, then we cannot be practicing the tradition in a way that promotes freedom. And if we're not practicing the tradition in a way that promotes freedom, then we're practicing the tradition in a way that promotes more bondage. So if you don't practice Orisha explicitly to create every dimension of freedom imaginable, then you are practicing it in a way that inadvertently promotes more bondage. Okay? And so this is a message for the leaders. I'm calling out to the leaders. I'm looking for people who are ready, willing, and able to improve the world through positive influence. If you're one of those people, then I want you to find out how Obafemi Origunwa and the Orisha Lifestyle Academy can help you take your practice and your life to the next level. Visit me at obafemio.com or orishalifestyle.com, and let's start working together to help you live the medicine that will heal your life and heal the lives of those who you are destined to serve. I look forward to working with you. Bye for now. Odabo.